From 2010 to 2012, Southampton achieved 2 successive promotions from League One to the Premier League in a space of 2 years. Now, 11 years later, they're going back down the pyramid of the Football League. Some of those seasons were very successful. They were fighting for Europe and genuinely had some of the best players in the world. That is not a joke. Virgil van Dijk and Sadio Mane, 2 former Southampton players, have both ranked second in the Ballon d'Or. But now, for the first time in 11 years, Southampton fans will not be able to watch their team in the Premier League, as they will be playing Championship football next season, as it was confirmed in a loss to Fulham on Saturday. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the downfall of Southampton, from the highs of playing European football to the lows of losing 9-0 in 2 successive seasons, and now relegation from the Premier League. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and let's get into it. In Southampton's return season to the Premier League, their main objective was to stay up, and they did so in a sort of convincing manner, 5 points above the drop, finishing the season in 16th. Some notable players that were involved with this team: a 23-year-old Morgan Schneiderlin, Adam Lallana and Nathaniel Klein, an 18-year-old James Ward-Prowse, and a 17-year-old Luke Shaw. Mauricio Pochettino arrived midway through the season and proved key in Southampton's survival. Southampton reinvested in the summer, bringing in the likes of Dejan Lovren and Victor Wanyama. And in the 13-14 season, Mauricio Pochettino's first season as Southampton's manager for a full season, they went and finished 8th. Again, in the summer window, Southampton spent the money, and they spent it well, bringing in the likes of Shane Long, Sadio Mane, Dusan Tadic, Toby Alderweireld, Ryan Bertrand and Fraser Forster. Southampton did spend big in this window, but they also did sell a lot of players, and a recurring theme in this period is Southampton would sell their players for a big profit. Luke Shaw, Adam Lallana, Dejan Lovren and Callum Chambers for a total of €100 million. However, probably the biggest loss for Southampton was the loss of their manager Mauricio Pochettino, who would leave for Tottenham. He was replaced by Ronald Koeman, who would have a successful time at Southampton. Southampton proved they weren't one-season wonders by finishing that season 7th, only 3 points off a Europa League spot. The summer window was not quite as eventful as the previous year. Morgan Schneiderlin and Nathaniel Klein left. 3 significant players were brought in: Cedric Suarez, Charlie Austin, who would go on to play decent enough roles for Southampton, and the biggest of the lot, Virgil van Dijk from Celtic for €15 million. From their finish last season, Southampton did earn themselves playoffs for the Europa League, however they did fail to qualify. There's this myth that Virgil van Dijk was only good for 18 months, but he was a world-class defender at Southampton. That's why he cost Liverpool so much money, and for me, he's the main reason why Southampton finished in a Europa League spot in the 15-16 season. This is where the downward spiral of Southampton begins to happen, as they sold the likes of Sadio Mane, Victor Wanyama, Jose Fonte, and really failed to replace them well. 4 signings were made for Southampton: Boufal, Gabbiadini, Højbjerg and Nathan Redmond. Højbjerg and Nathan Redmond, they were both good signings. Højbjerg made a profit, Nathan Redmond has done a job over his time. Gabbiadini was good for about 6 weeks, and Boufal just didn't work out. Ronald Koeman left Southampton and was replaced by Claude Puel, but how would he do in the Europa League, which they automatically qualified for the previous season? Well, they faced off against Sparta Prague, Inter Milan and Hapoel Beersheva. Weirdly enough, Inter Milan finished bottom of the group on 6 points, Southampton finished 3rd on 8 points, going out on goal difference. In that same season, Southampton made it to the Carabao Cup final, losing to Man United. They finished the season 8th. That would be the last time Southampton finished in the top half of the league. In the summer of 2018, Southampton brought in the likes of Elwyn Nursey, Stuart Armstrong, Yannick Vestergaard and Angus Gunn for over €60 million, but the most significant signing out of the lot was Danny Ings. But this Southampton super team was slowly being dismantled, as Virgil van Dijk had left for Liverpool in the previous January. Dusan Tadic was gone, Cedric Suarez as well. Slowly but surely, this Southampton side was getting worse and worse. That Premier League season will well and truly prove that, as Southampton finished 16th, 5 points off the relegation zone, the closest they've come to the drop since their very first season. Ralph Hasenhüttl was the man who would arrive midway through the season, and he would be the longest serving Southampton manager in their Premier League tenure. Danny Ings, who had arrived on loan and was made permanent midway through the season, had scored a total of 14 goals, a very important player in Southampton's survival. I started talking about how Southampton didn't reinvest their money well, and I think there has been a few good signings since I've said that, but now it's just a time where all the signings seem to not work out. Danny Ings is the last successful forward I believe Southampton have bought. You look at the likes of Che Adams, who has been alright for them, but he hasn't necessarily scored loads of goals. Stuart Armstrong, they haven't been the most successful. They've lacked goals, Southampton, and I think that is one of the main reasons they've ended up going back down to the Championship. The 1920 season was a successful one for Southampton, as they were only 7 points off a European place, finishing 11th, 15 points from the drop. Danny Ings would have an absolutely fantastic season for Southampton that year, scoring 22 goals, only 1 goal off Jamie Vardy to win the Golden Boot. Højbjerg was sold to Tottenham, Shane Long was put out on loan the last time he would really play a significant part for Southampton, a player who had done really well over his time, even breaking the record for the quickest Premier League goal ever. He never really put up the numbers of a Danny Ings or Sadio Mane at Southampton, but he was always an important player in their squads. Following his loan move in the previous season, Kyle Walker-Peters was made a permanent from Spurs, and Salisu was brought in for €12 million. Goals from Danny Ings did drop off that that season, only scoring 12 goals, but he was hampered with injuries, only playing 29 games. Southampton would finish that Premier League season 15th, 15 points above the drop because the 3 relegated teams were absolutely awful in Fulham, Sheffield United and West Brom. Sadly enough for Southampton fans, in this Premier League season they would lose a game 9-0 to Manchester United. They'd also done the same the previous season to Leicester. It just was a frustrating time for Southampton fans. In the summer of 21-22, Southampton brought in the likes of Adam Armstrong for €17 million, a signing that really wouldn't go on to work out. Theo Walcott on a free, Broha on loan, Tino Livramento, but the sales turned out to be quite significant as Danny Ings would leave for Aston Villa for €30 million, Yannick Vestergaard would go for €17 million. Two departures that would really prove significant as they really would weaken the Southampton side, especially Danny Ings, who would prove to be a clinical goal scorer in his time at Southampton, though Broha did pop up with a few goals in his time on loan. I think Broha's time at Southampton is extremely overrated. He scored a few goals in a quick period of time and Chelsea fans all of a sudden thought they had their new number 9, especially as Lukaku wasn't doing too well. He only scored 6 Premier League goals. Good for an 18-year-old, but it's really nothing special. Definitely when you compare it to Danny Ings' numbers at Southampton. Again, Southampton would finish the season in 15th, however this time they would only be 5 points off the relegation zone. Now on to present day Southampton, and in the summer they would spend big, spending a total of €151 million, largely on a lot of young players. They would loan out a few young players like Will Smallbone and Nathan Tella, 2 players who've had very successful seasons in the Championship and have probably been the most successful players for Southampton this season. Nathan Redmond, Fraser Forster and Shane Long would all also depart the club, but the most significant departure was Romeo, a midfield rock who would now leave the club. This summer's signings were interesting, bringing in Suleiman, Gavin Bazunu, Alcaraz, Mara, Lavia, Bella Kotchap, Duja Celticar, Dozy, Joe Aribo, Ainsley Maitland-Niles and a few others in a massive transfer window. A window which saw Southampton bring in a lot of very talented players, but ones with very little experience. If you go through every one of the Southampton players signed in that summer transfer window, the players would make a total of 87 Premier League appearances combined, all of those appearances coming from Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Really talented players, no doubt, but if they don't work out, or if they're not ready for it just yet, then Southampton are essentially doomed. They don't stand a chance in the relegation battle, and that is exactly what has happened. No Danny Ings, no Broha, no Sadio Mane, no Shane Long, no goal scorers for Southampton. They had to rely on a midfielder, James Ward-Prowse, to come up with the goals. He's been Southampton's top Premier League goal scorer so far with 8 goals, along with their top assister with 3 assists. Since coming up from the Championship as a teenager with Southampton, James Ward-Prowse has played through every single season with Southampton. So he has the experience and he's a fantastic free kick taker. He might score a few goals in a season, but you cannot be relying on a midfielder to be scoring all your goals. That's what Southampton has done, and that's why they're in so much trouble. Ralph Hasenhuttl was sacked in November, replaced by Nathan Jones. He seemed to think he was the best manager on the planet, and he did not do a good job, and was sacked in February, replaced by Ruben Selles. Even through all the sackings, Southampton have one thing that has been so consistent throughout the season: they can't get points off the teams around them. They've got 2 wins over Chelsea, 2 draws off Arsenal, a draw versus Man United at Old Trafford, a draw versus Spurs. They beat Everton and lost to Everton. They beat Leicester twice, but other than that, they haven't got any points off the teams around them. And as things currently stand, Southampton have not won a Premier League game since March the 4th versus Leicester. And now we're at the point where Southampton have been relegated following the defeat to Fulham. When I started this video, it was yesterday, but now it's last week. It truly is sad to see a team that's been very successful in their time in the Premier League, like I've shown in their previous seasons, especially between 2014 and 2017, now finish bottom of the Premier League and get relegated. They have 2 Premier League games to go versus Brighton and Liverpool. They likely won't get anything out of those games, but hopefully there's a good performance just to cheer the fans up. They'll do well in the Championship, hopefully. They make a few good signs, get a good new manager. Hopefully we'll be seeing Southampton back in the Premier League very soon. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you want Southampton back in the Premier League? Are you happy they've been relegated, or are you sad like myself? They have been a club I've liked. They've been very good to my club Liverpool, so I am sad to see them go. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching the video. Longest video I've posted since the World Cup, so I hope you all did enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy, subscribe if you are new. If you want to see more long videos by me, check out my tactical analysis on Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, and if you want to see another video like this, check out my video on Everton. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.